Hello, my dear friends. In today's episode, I am joined by fellow Runic practitioner Tina Kemp, and in this riveting episode, we get into many aspects of using the runes, from personal development, divination, and discussing the implications of fate versus free will. I'm going to be doing a lot more rune content here on this channel, so if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. I know you're going to love it, so stay tuned. All right, welcome in everyone to another episode of the Wizard Factory podcast, where together we explore the universe through ourselves. This channel is all about giving you the spiritual tools and mindsets to live a more free, empowered life. So if that sounds good to you, drop down, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the tribe. Today is a very special interview that I've been waiting for probably over a year now, as timing had to be right in context to where we were at individually and what I was working on at the time, which was beginning to build my rune course. So at that point, I knew that I wanted to have this guest on and talk about the runes. So without further ado, welcome Tina Kemp to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Logan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So you were actually really a big help in my journey of getting clarity on the meaning of the runes, the practicality of the runes during that time. So I knew that this would be a really great conversation, and there would probably be a lot of synchronicities and just a little bit of that magic, when we join forces here. So the runes are frequencies. And if you understand the law of vibration, it's a hermetic principle that everything is in accordance to this law, and things will be attracted or repelled or transformed according to a certain vibration. That when you bring these runes, these frequencies into your life and begin working with them, you're going to have no choice but to be changed, be transformed by them, or you're not going to be, you'll be destroyed by them if you don't start aligning to those energies as well. So yeah, it can be a very disruptive and destructive and painful process, but that is the name of the game when it comes to healing and growth and evolution. It's not always pleasant or easy, but always rewarding when you actually do that work. And the reward is to be the better person, the new being that you have become. And so what are some ways that you can think of specifically that are an example of how the runes can be this pathway to self-development?
Well, they're extremely life-affirming. So that's not to say that they're gentle, because there certainly aren't. There are some really difficult runes in the entire Futhark. But, I mean, there are things that we deal with, not unlike the tarot for that matter, but it is a bit different as well. Runes are not archetypes. They're not personifications of something. While in the tarot, they are more personifications, because you see these people in these little compositions that play out an event in one's life that we can relate to. Runes are more primal in that sense. They're not specific either. They are like little keys of things that all are already within us, in every person for that matter, no matter where we are. All cultures too, for that matter. We all have these things that we value in life, or that we will encounter in life, and that we can either choose to let it to succumb, that we can choose to succumb to, or that we can use as a tool to overcome not only ourselves but also the circumstances. And these little symbols they're almost just like our ancestral gods. They are part of our DNA. I'm sure you experienced that too. When you saw runes, you just knew that there's something to it, and you could feel that there is a presence and an energy there that is opening something in your mind. And at the time that you first encounter this, you may not even be fully aware what that is or how you are supposed to be relating to it. But yeah, there are little keys basically to
Mhm.
unlock your own mind.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it, like keys. Each one has its signature and a specific lock that it fits into and opens you up. And I think from my perspective and my understanding of paganism is that the reason that every pagan tradition, no matter where in the world it was from, they deal very heavily in archetypes. Even like looking at Carl Jung, who is very famous for sort of synthesizing these pagan esoteric concepts into more scientific or psychological ones. That was such a central part of his work as well, because that's just how the brain likes to work, is we have to kind of conceptualize things, and then we can it's like a framework. We have this node with a name on it, and then we can start attaching little ideas of, okay, it's like this and it's like that, and it's not like this and it's not like that. And you're just building up this idea and developing it based around this core concept. And then you have there's a symbol. So there's this like visual element, and then there's the sound to it. It's a language, so there's the sonic. So it's fully engaging of the senses. It's experiential, and then you're just kind of building up this idea as an archetype. That's what I think. One thing is that's so powerful about the runes in general and how they work, but then the way that they go from one to the next is like this stepwise progression of the advancement of your own consciousness from the most basic, kind of like you're a baby, like an infant, and you need Fehu, like mother's milk to grow and to go to that next stage. And so in each one is like that. It just builds on it, and you can't it's almost like grades that you can't skip a grade because each one is a prerequisite. You have to kind of at least master or grasp at a basic level this one before you can move on to the next one. And then the best part is when you get to the end, it's not the end at all. It just starts over. And then you're like the next rung of the spiral, but with a higher level of knowledge and mastery. And then you just go around again and again and again, just as all things in nature is cyclical. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I completely agree with that because Feiho, it is, yeah, it is often called the money rune, which is true. We all want our wealth to increase and money must roll and flow. But it is the rune of the expansion, the first primal expansive force,
Mm.
that point of connection when the two, when the ice and the fire met in Gunungagap, created an alchemical reaction, and from there created everything. And that is that force. That is the Fehu force, the expansive force behind that. So it's not an archetype, it is something extremely primal. And at the end of the food arc, you have gone through life and you have gone through these different stages and you have gone from basic needs. The first ed is sort of the Maslow pyramid of needs, if you will. And then the second one is where you start to encounter struggle and pushback. And that's where you're tested. And the last one is the rune of, is the ed of Tyr. You have found order. You have made order in the chaos. And then there is some contestation on whether Otala or Dagas is the last rune. I tend to think that it can be both, and I'll explain. You have the Otala is the rune of the home, the inheritance. You die and you go back to your ancestor, to your ancestral gods, if you will. You're thrown back to them, and from there you will eventually be reborn again. Now, the Dagas rune then could be that rune of rebirth. It is the most liminal rune in the entire foot arc. It is neither here nor there. It is the in-between space. The space where we talk to spirits. It is a space that is neither day and it is neither night. It is that the violet hour, if you will, where the veil is extremely thin. So maybe that is the point that we become reincarnated, or the other way around. We die, we go through the gods, we go into the liminal, into the world of spirits ourselves. We go to Helheim, we go through the levels of Helheim, and then we go home again, meaning that we are rebirthed by a different mother.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating that the almost like the irony and the symbolism itself of that the end and the beginning isn't exactly clear. There's a little bit of ambiguity and a little bit of kind of blurriness as to what that clear point of this is the final rune and then you're recycled, because I think those are both kind of they are like interchangeable in a way. I still work with, or operate from Othala being the last one, but it is kind of like is the rebirth the inheritance? Like they kind of it's like the left and right hand. They're kind of like part of the same point, if you will.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on your personal philosophy, to be honest, because it really matter at the end of the day which one is the last room? It seems it seems a bit of a pointless discussion, in my opinion. Now, you can have these discussions out of academical interest, of course, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it really doesn't matter. It just matters how you relate to this. And what you believe personally is always going to feel more important than what you're told by somebody else to believe anyway.
Mm. So I'd like to maybe get into the shamanic side of things, which we've touched on a little bit. But looking at the runes as a mystery school of initiation, essentially. You had told me that the runes were very initiatory for you, and that wasn't the most pleasant or easy experience, though I'm sure your takeaway would be that it was as a positive thing overall. But I would love to hear your personal account of what that was like, and your kind of takeaways from that.
Well, runes are linked to a specific branch of paganism. And in my opinion, they cannot be seen loose from their gods. And I know this is going to sound all sorts of strange and weird and maybe even out there, but I had experiences with the god most connected to these runes, like literal experiences. And I don't know how to explain it other than that you will encounter this deity, this spirit, if you will. I don't feel that spirit is the right word. It is a god, it is an ancestral god of a certain people. And this is a very difficult deity to work with, um, because it's a trickster god, it's a god of magic as well. And there is a lot that can be said about the entire mythology and such, but I deeply believe that this deity approves of a person or disapproves of a person working with runes. And you will notice that in how easy it is for you to work with it. And I feel that I had to go through an entire trial in order to be approved, for lack of a better word. I felt that this God tested me for a very, very long time. Um, and felt that trial coming to an end when I saw this God, literally saw this God as a human, but also not as a human. When I was at the doctor's office, I went through a time of great sacrifices, personal sacrifices I had made. And when I had made one of the greatest sacrifices, which wasn't even a sacrifice, it's just how nature goes when you have a miscarriage, I was standing in the doctor's office. And it was during the lockdown times, and I was already in Italy, and they were extremely strict in how many people were allowed in the office. So there was the desk, and I was standing at the desk, and behind me was a couch. And there was the door, the entry door, which I had a vision on. I could see that door as I was talking to the person behind the counter. And I'm doing my business, and all of a sudden she had a phone call, and I'm standing there looking around, and there was this woman sitting there who wasn't there when I came to the counter. I didn't see her come in. She didn't come from the offices, and she didn't come through the front door. And nobody else seemed to be aware of her because she wasn't wearing a mask. She was wearing nothing. We all had to wear a mask. They were extremely strict about this in Italy. And this woman didn't feel like a woman. This woman was blind in one eye. This woman had one whited out eye and gray hair falling all over, all next to her faces. And I immediately knew who that was. That was not a woman sitting there. And I'm absolutely convinced of this because all of a sudden that phone call hung up. That woman, I didn't see her go out, and I didn't see her go to the offices there. And I was paying attention to this. And as I had paid and done my business, she was no longer there. I knew who that was. I just know it there. I know this sounds so out there. I know this sounds insane. This sounds crazy. You're making it up. I'm not making this up. I did see that God.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't the only time that I saw this God as a literal physical manifestation. But yeah, but I knew in that moment because I locked eyes with this person and I felt the shock, this deep shock, this gut feeling of, "Ugh, I know." And I felt it at that time too, that she or he wanted to convey something to me. And that thing was like, it's over now. And I knew what was meant with that. My trial had ended,
Mm.
if you will. And I know how that sounds. I know how that whole rant sounds. I do. But I stand by it. This happened.
I think it sounds badass, but I'm not your average person. I guess I'm much more open-minded to these kind of things, but I do believe that these things happen all the time, that people have these profound and spiritual experiences, and I do believe that the gods will reveal themselves and appear to whom they choose to at certain times. I don't think they're just archetypal concepts of nature. I think they are that too, but I do think that they are actual beings that we can interface with. So that is a really fascinating story for sure. Personally, I have not experienced meeting any of the gods, but I certainly believe your story. So, I mean, that does sound like an initiation to me, as far as I'm concerned. That there's often a trial, a test when it comes to initiatory rites, and then you are sort of initiated once you have, because you're a student, and then you have to go through that liminal space, and then you become initiated or activated. So, yeah. I guess my understanding is more, um, I mean, it is partially intellectual. I can see how it is this progression that takes you from the beginning and works your way up. But you can do this intentionally. Anyone can, by just working with each rune in order, whether that's writing it on a piece of paper, carrying it around in your pocket every day, and just doing one rune per day or 3 days or a month, however you want to stretch that out. And you will feel something if you're meant to be working with the runes, like you said. I do also agree with you that not everyone is going to have that bond, that energetic relationship that's sort of innate. You can build a relationship with anything. There are no rules that say you can't do something necessarily, but I do think certain people just have a more natural, innate affinity and relationship, probably due to ancestry. It just makes a lot of sense. Like the blood in your veins is the same living organic material that literally was pumping through the veins of your ancestors thousands of years ago. And there is that, I mean, blood contains a lot of water. Water retains memory. It's like a receiver. It's like a memory holder. And so I think there's a lot to that, of just that perpetual relationship that is literally living inside you. And I think that's so fascinating too. Hey guys, just wanted to take a quick moment to offer you a special gift. It's the initiation package. I created this to equip you with all the essential tools you need for your daily metaphysical practice, for anyone serious about their spiritual development. This is a free download that includes the Toolbox mini course. It's comprised of 3 parts: the circle, the breath, and the voice. You'll learn how to cast the circle of the Magi, various breathwork techniques, including a powerful guided breath meditation and 2 magical invocations. You'll also get access to the Inner Sanctum, our private community, where you can connect with other like-minded truth seekers, the Wizard Factory weekly newsletter, as well as some custom Wizard Factory wallpapers for desktop and mobile, all for free. This is my way of helping you lay a solid foundation, so don't miss out. Get access now and take the first step on your path. You can find the link to get yours in the description below. So check it out and let's get back to the content.
For sure. I mean, people, there are indeed no rules. There just aren't. There are consequences to choices and actions, but there are no rules per se. There is no threefold law. There's what Wiccans come up with, that doesn't exist, because nobody that I know, and that includes not just people that work with runes, but in other esoteric practices, they don't seem to encounter this. What they do encounter is natural law. That they do encounter. And natural law is not so difficult to understand at the end of the day. I mean, for instance, have known for thousands, if not longer than thousands of years, known what a woman is and what a man is. And lately, the political scene seemed to have wanted to push a certain idea upon us that no, we cannot really know what a woman is just by looking at a person. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. That's natural law. And you see what happens to these people. Are any of these people truly fulfilled or happy, or are they constantly miserable and in a piss poor mood and they always want to tear things down? None of these people build anything. I've never seen them do anything. Well, they tried that once with a city in Portland, I think. They tried to take over a city and build their sort of communist utopia. Well, that failed miserably, didn't it? People got hurt. It ended up a miniature war zone in no time.
Oh no.
That's natural law.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But that is key to understand, that like even natural law doesn't say you can't do something. It just says there's consequences, and that you're going to get the outcome that you asked for through your behavior, whether you understand the reasoning or the laws themselves or not. They just are. And they don't play favorites either. So, yeah, I would like to circle back to this concept around fate versus free will and the web of weird, because I think this is really relevant, not only just as a general philosophical concept, but especially through runes, because runes are so often used as a divinatory tool or device. And so once again, it's the question of, are these runes, showing you something that is fixed, or do you still have a choice in the matter, right? I like to think of the runes as when you lay out some runes in a spread to do a reading, it's like you're taking a Polaroid picture of the energies that are at play right this moment. And it's, the energies are always changing. Everything is in flux. That's nature. It's just like just because it's sunny today doesn't mean it won't be cloudy tomorrow. And you could it could be warm, but then all of a sudden a cold front comes through and now it's cold. So it's like it's showing you, yes, right now things look like this. Maybe they're going well, it's sunny, maybe they're a little gloomy and cloudy and stormy, but you still have a choice. You're looking at what is, because you can't go somewhere if you don't know where you are now. So you have to take a look at where you are now and what's at play, what you're working with, what's the prima materia, and then decide what the best course of action is to get where you're trying to get to.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that runes can have the potential to do predictions. It's possible. But what is not possible is that they do it on their own. It takes a certain level of psychic ability as well. And what a psychic does is they don't see the future. They see potential futures. And they pick up the one that is most likely to happen based on the information that their subconscious has gathered about the current situation and what, like water, finds the easiest way. And that is what a psychic picks up on. That is, I think, pretty good explanation for how runes can predict the future. It's not the runes that predict the future, it's the person. Well, in the manner that I just explained. Now, I do rune readings for people. And one of the readings I do most is a general reading, and that has to do with how to walk the path of Hamenya. And Hamenya is just, it is most best compared to Dharma in the Eastern traditions.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference. The Hamenya is an actual spirit that functions as an antenna between you and your gods and your ancestors. Now, if that antenna is intact, it's an actual spirit, then you will have good intuition. That good intuition will lead you to make good choices for yourself, which will lead to better luck, better things happening to you. If that Hamenya is damaged, and it is possible to completely destroy it as well, the likeliness of you getting it back after you've destroyed it through bad decisions is very unlikely. That is why people that you see spiral down a self-destructive path usually keep spiraling until they hit absolute rock bottom. And then and if they hit that rock bottom, they have a choice to make. They can stay there, or they can try to get back up. And the road back up is always extremely difficult. Of course
Mm-hmm.
it is, because it is much easier to fall than it is to climb back up. Now, when I do these readings, there are only 3 runes. And one is, what have you done in the past that has been good for your Hamenya? The choices you have made that have been beneficial for your Hamenya. What are you doing right now, or are attempting to do right now, that has been beneficial for your Hamenya? Now, based on those 2 runes, the third one is going to light up the path that you should be working towards in order to keep going on that path. And yeah, whatever rune falls, that is then the advice for you. But it's advisory. It is not, you must do this or this will happen. It's not like that. You have a choice. You can choose to ignore the advice of the runes at all times. Does that mean that bad things are going to happen to you? Not necessarily. It just means that it's probably going to be easier if you do follow the advice.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways around things, Sometimes people just like to take the long road, the rockier road. Why is that? I don't know. I can't read people's minds like that. Maybe they need that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just like to do things difficult. And that reading that I do for people is just, this is the easiest way for you based on the choices that you have made in the past. So you won't encounter too many difficulty. Now, sometimes people come to me with questions, and then I pull 5 runes there's the heart of the matter. What are your ancestors telling you? This genetic memory that you have, what is that trying to tell you? That's your intuition, your gut feeling. Then there is the rune that says forces that will be coming from you from the outside. You're going to have no control over them, but this is happening to you. This is going to influence your situation. What do you do with that? Well, that's up to you. If, like you see this raining outside, do you take an umbrella or do you don't take an umbrella? Either way, it's still going to rain. You're either going to get wet or you're going to be less wet. It doesn't stop the rain. Then there is the part that you ought to leave behind. These are parts of you or in your situation that you need to let die. It doesn't serve you to hold on to these things. We all do that. Sometimes we need to cut out situations, habits, thought patterns, which is very difficult. It's not easy at all. I will never say that it's an easy thing to do because it's really not. And then based on all those, a way forward will emerge. And this choice is never a yes or no answer because that wouldn't serve a person. A person needs to be able to look at the situation from a bird's view perspective, looking down on it and disseminate. It's like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And if I don't want to feel that way, then perhaps I should go that road. And that is what I do with my readings. I do not make predictions like that. I have done predictions in general readings that I do for a larger public, which some of them were true, have become very true, but that's another story. But yeah, I have to do the reading in the best interest of the person because that person came to me for help, wants my help with something, and it won't help that person if I start sugarcoating things or make things seem like they're more positive than what they really are. Sometimes Rune can be utterly devastating in a reading, but you have to be told the truth, and you can tell that truth in a you're a stupid asshole, you're a stupid bitch, you're making dumb decisions, and you need to stop that. But that doesn't help a person. We need to tell them this, what you are doing right now is not serving you because of this and that reason. It will be easier for you if you make different decisions, more, maybe drop a certain habit that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Maybe do not get stuck into thought patterns. Very hard to break.
absolutely. And you can't get mad at the messenger if the runes are just showing you. It's not the rune's fault if they're just showing you what is, or they're like a mirror that's just reflecting you back to yourself, essentially. And another thing that came up was just that when you were talking about you can choose to ignore what they're telling you, sure, you can do that, but then why did you ask them to begin with? To even initiate a reading, whether you're getting it from someone else or you're doing it for yourself, whether you verbalize it or not, you are asking a question. And so don't ask questions that you don't want the answers to, essentially. But the runes, if anything, they're honest.
Yeah.
They're not going to, like you said, they're not going to sugarcoat anything. They're not going to try to make you feel good. They're there to help you with what you need, not what you want to hear.
If you go to a reader hoping that they're going to tell you something that you want to hear, then just stick with YouTube tarot readers.
Exactly.
They will always tell you what you want to hear. You know, that ex that you've been thinking about for the last 10 years, he's still thinking about you. He's just stuck in his karmic relationship right now, but he's thinking about you. Well, that'll
Yeah.
help.
Have you ever felt curious about the runes, but didn't know where to begin? The runes are a powerful tool for transformation, but without the right guidance, they can feel confusing, overwhelming, or even inaccessible. Maybe you've struggled with conflicting information, not knowing which sources to trust. Or maybe you just need a clear, practical way to start using them in your life. Rune Magic Essentials is a free mini-course designed to give you a solid foundation in rune work without the fluff or confusion. You don't need months of study to start using the runes. In just 15 minutes, I'll show you how to tap into their power. Inside, you'll learn Introduction to the Elder Futhark and its ancient origins, how to use Rune Galder, the ancient practice of rune chanting. Discover the first 3 runes, Fehu, Uruz, and Thurizaz, to start transforming your reality. This is your gateway into the world of rune magic, and it's completely free. Just hit the link in the description, sign up, and begin your journey today. Unlock the wisdom of the runes. Download Rune Magic Essentials now. And now let's get back to the content.
The other question that this brings up for me on this topic of predeterminism and consulting the runes is, even if you could know the future of something, is that even really the best thing? Because I think a lot of what gives life meaning is that you don't know how it's going to end. It's like, how much do you enjoy a movie that you've never seen before? If you already know how it's going to end, you're just sitting there the whole time just waiting for it to lead up to that moment, and you don't even feel the same kind of suspense with all of the drama that's going on because you know where it's all going to wind up. And so that's no way to live life. It makes you really value the decisions that you make when you don't know how it's going to play out. So you have to really consider what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's like kind of the cliche in movies and stuff where some psychic is like, I know how you die, or I know how this plays out. And then they ask and they're like, well, I'm not going to tell you because that would ruin the whole thing. Like, that's not the point. The point is not to know. The point is to make the best decisions that you can, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, so that you really value and contemplate what you are doing and the effects that it's having.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the key to conscious living, to be conscious in life and of yourself and of your place in the world. Not everybody is going to be a millionaire. You can waste your entire life hoping you become a millionaire. You have to, at some point, not only accept the possibility that you'll never become a millionaire, but you also need to be able to appreciate what else might be in store for you. It might be something amazing that you're going to miss out on just because you're sitting there thinking like, well, God damn it, I'm not a millionaire now, my life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't suck. You're just, I mean, that's the road to being a chronic malcontent, and that is no way to live.
Yeah, exactly. And so, again, with the runes, the question you should be asking yourself is not what's going to happen. You should be consulting the runes to give you clarity on what is your best path to take. It's not about the destination as much as understanding where you are now and what's the next step in order to get where you're trying to get to. And that's part of the beauty is you don't know exactly how it's going to play out. You know what you want to have happen and you're trying to get there. But a lot of the time the magic is in the fact that maybe you get what you want, but it's in a way that you didn't even expect, and it was so much better. And so there's a lot of wisdom in that alone, is just like not being so fixed on exactly how you think it's supposed to go or what you think you deserve or what should happen, and just experience life for what it is and trust the process and trust that the outcomes can often be better than you ever imagined. But if you're so fixated on a certain outcome, you might actually end up limiting and kind of shooting yourself in the foot and diminishing what could have been because you were going against the flow and trying to force something.
Yes. Mm. And this comes back to weird, the web of weird. A person that is born in a rich family, let's say Jeff Bezos as a child, that person is going to have a much easier time to become a multi-billionaire themselves. just by merit of being born into the right family for that. That's not to say that Bezos could not squander his entire fortune and that guy ends up with nothing. It's possible. Is it likely? No. But is it possible? Absolutely. Just and then there's a people like Richard Branson, the guy that made the airline.
Mhm.
He wasn't a multimillionaire at all. He built an airline, started low. This is just to say that if you are born into a poor family, that is not in any way saying that you will never become a millionaire. It's just saying that the road to it is going to be more difficult with more hurdles and longer than that guy born as Jeff Bezos' son.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
and it's based on your own personal choices. But yeah, don't get too hung up on an outcome.
Hmm. Take it back to the first rune, even Fehu. It's about what resources do you have when you're starting out, and so if you're in a position of life where you're born in a certain family or whatever, then you might not have as many resources. So then there you go. That's now where you go on the journey. If you want to get anywhere, you got to work on getting some more resources, and then that opens up a lot more possibilities to you, because that's the only thing that's different. Nothing fundamentally different between you and Jeff Bezos' son, except he just has access to more resources, out of the gate.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Runes can help you get a very good sense of your own strengths and weaknesses. And this comes back to a tenet of magic. All magic is know thyself. You need to know, absolutely know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. Because not only can your weaknesses be used against you, your strengths can be used against you as well.
Mm.
And if you don't know yourself very well, you are less likely to become emotionally an adult, emotionally. If you don't know yourself very well, then you are more likely to fly off the handle. If you have very little emotional control over yourself, stay away from magic. Just stay away from magic entirely. You need to do a lot of growing up first. You cannot be in the psychological state of a toddler and expect to have the advantages of an adult.
Mm. Yeah.
That's just the way that goes. I mean, you are so likely to squander opportunities just by being hysterical, overly emotional, or histrionic.
Hmm. Or entitled. So w-
Or
what is some specific ways that you could share about how the runes will teach you about yourself, will reveal your strengths and weaknesses, and how you can then use the runes to balance those things out, to bolster your strengths, to curtail your weaknesses.
well, let's say that you pull. Okay, this is a reading that I did for a person a while back, and I don't want to get too much into detail, but let's say you are around the wrong crowd of people, and a crowd of people that are likely to engage in criminality or criminal activity, and you consistently get a Tiwa's rune upside down. Um, that is very bad news for you. That doesn't spell anything good for you. The likeliness of you suffering the consequences of just being around the wrong people are very, very high. And you can expect very little compassion or even empathy when things will go wrong. Now, how and you know that you like being around these people. You like them as people for whatever reason you do. That is a weakness. That is a personal weakness of you because there is nothing or very little good that can come from that, but there's a lot of bad that can come from it. So you need to know yourself deeply enough to know why you like these people, why you like to be around those kind of people. Is that because of you just enjoy causing chaos? Or is that because you're used to being around chaos and that is your normal? Or is it something entirely different? Because if you don't want to suffer the consequences of being around people like that, you need to know why you're around these people. And if you know why you are around these people, or why you cannot seem to not be around these people, that is a first step in trying to make a change. Because otherwise, you can, let's say, impulsively decide, like, I don't want anything to do with these people anymore. Only bad things ever happen. But if you don't know why you were around these people in the first place, then you're just going to find new people that are just like that. It will keep repeating and repeating. This is how people get into these cycles of these repetitive cycles. And you need to break that cycle, because the same situation is going to reoccur with different people every time. And let's say that you really did have a very bad childhood and you're aware of that. Then it's in you already from that moment on. You know this is bad, and you know you had bad examples. Then you can go actively out into the world and even online look for better examples and then study those people. What are they doing? How did they get to where they are now? Is there anything, a certain habit, a certain a certain habit, a certain way of behaving that they're doing that is actively helping them in their position, which is better than mine? So that is what self awareness is in a nutshell. This can apply to any and all situations, but it's most helpful in negative situations because you don't want to be in those.
Yes, and self-awareness is key, always. I mean, that's what everything always comes back to, because no one else is going to have your best interest as in mind and at heart as you can and as you should. And so that's the question that you always have to keep in mind is, you know, you can't just outsource that inner knowing, even if it's a rune reading or something like that. Ultimately, you know the answer. That's something that in my experience, has been a very common theme is most of the time, the runes don't tell me as much as they just kind of confirm what I already knew. But sometimes just getting that little bit of vindication and confirmation is very empowering in and of itself. And that's why I do recommend people to learn runes for yourself, instead of always relying on readings, because even no matter how talented or intuitive or psychic that other person is, they're still not going to know you as well as you know you. And as with all of these forms of divination, whether it's tarot or anything like that, that's my take, is that more than anything, even all magic aside, what they are most of all is a way for you to consciously interface with your subconscious mind. So you're using something externally to just sort of peer into that mirror and break through that veil of the conscious mind that's often so guarded with logic and doubt and just analyzing things. And it just gives you something simple. I mean, a simple line figure, on a piece of wood or bone or stone. It's amazing, isn't it, that something so simple has that profound ability to just cut through all of that over complexity and just show you exactly what you need to know or hear or remember, most of all, in that moment.
That is very true, because even if I look at my own life, two runes that kept coming back for me when I was failing my test was Rido reversed and now this. So it's a struggle. You're struggling and you're on the wrong path. And I was in culinary. I made good money in culinary, really good money. I had a bright future ahead of me. I could have worked, and I did work in good, really good restaurants, and I could have stayed there. And everything else in my life felt like a complete and utter struggle. I'm struggling. I'm internally struggling, and I don't know why. I'm becoming a problem drinker. I'm surrounding myself with people who are coke, cokies. And I remember one specific day that I was working in culinary. I was in a really good restaurant, and I worked with people that were just absolute see you next Tuesdays, and I hated it. I wanted out. That was the beginning of the end for me. And they were like absolute snobs in their line of work. One day I overheard one of the waiters saying, um, look at those people there, sitting there with the best wines of Europe at their table, and that asshole wants a Coca-Cola. And I was thinking to myself, like, what business is it of you? 1 hour later, I see that guy outside in between the dumpsters doing a line of Coke. And I'm thinking, like, that's my future. That is my future. Doing that on dumpsters, on garbage bins with people I hate. That's going to be my life. And all of a sudden, it became so clear. You're on the wrong path, Tina. Get out.
Mm.
And I quit. That was my reason for quitting. And I moved away to a smaller town. I got a job still in the hospitality industry, but much, much. I worked in a glorified kebab shop, basically. I was the manager of that. And that was okay for a while. But yeah, I quit that life entirely. But it made sense all of a sudden. This is why everything is a struggle. I hate my life. I hate who I am becoming. That's why nothing is working out for me, no matter how high I climb, or no matter how hard I work, or no matter what raise I get, everything feels like shit.
Mm.
Because it is. It's leading nowhere. It's leading to the garbage bins.
Mm-hmm. And you were not in your dharma, your amingya.
No, and I also know why I was doing that, which came much later. Why was I doing that, even though it wasn't working out for me? Well, it was so because I was repressing a lot of things from my own childhood. I drowned myself in work in order to not experience pain that I carried with me from a bad childhood. And then when I finally found a quieter place and had time to do that reflection and feel that pain, well, that pain lasted for a long time, a whole year, crying every day, every day. People were getting really concerned for me. And then one day, I didn't cry anymore. I didn't feel I had to. So I basically got myself out of a real heavy depression. And I had that depression for a lot longer than I realized or wanted to realize. I've been depressed for years before that. And all of a sudden, I found a way to not make it stop, but to heal from it.
Mm. That's powerful and beautiful.
And this was just to feel and sit there with my feelings.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that you made that choice and you're in a much better place now. So much respect for that. So I think that's a really great place to end this conversation. We had some other ideas of where to go, but I think as far as time goes, I would love to have you back on the show sometime and talk more about runes. I feel like we could just keep going for a while, and this has been amazing. But let's just leave people wanting more, right? That's the way to do it, right? Give them a tease and then say that's all for now, but come back next time. So for anyone watching this, if you feel called towards runes, if you've never really dived into that, or if you're just curious or wanting to have a new tool to work with and something that's always available and accessible to you at any time, even if you don't have a physical rune set on you, it's that you are the runes, they live inside you, I want to invite you to try out just my free mini course. So it will teach you the first 3 runes and how you can immediately start working with those energies. And then if you choose to go further from there, there is a full course available. So if you just want to try that free course, there's no risk to you. So click that link down in the description for that. And Tina also offers services such as rune reading. So Tina, will you tell the people how they can get in touch with you and what all offerings you have?
Well, I have an email that you can contact, and that's really the only way to contact me for rune readings. I don't need any information from you. I just need to know whether you want a general reading or you have a specific question. You can tell me as much as you want, although I don't encourage it, because then there is the possibility that people might think that I am biased in the reading, or that I know too much and that I'm doing the reading in light of knowing too much. I prefer to know as little as possible about you. Now, what you want to tell me, if you have a question, is up to you. But I would encourage you to not tell me too much personal information about yourself, because that's how you know for yourself that I am not that I'm not having a bias against you as a person.
So definitely hit her up for some for a personal reading or rune consultation. Follow her Substack. It is very good, and I hear lots of feedback from other people that I admire as well. A lot of people really appreciate your writing. And follow her YouTube channel as well. And I will put all of those links for your convenience down in the description box below. So thank you so much, Tina, for joining me today. If you're open, I would definitely love to have you back. And there's many other places we could go on the vast and magical topic of runes. But I hope everyone got value from this conversation. Show us some love in the algorithms by dropping a like below, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. But that's all we have for you today. Check out the other episodes of the podcast here. But until next time, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged.